Your business needs help. 56.1 million employees are employed by small businesses in the United States, and 99% of all U.S. establishments are small businesses under 250 employees. That means that your business should be listening to the only podcast dedicated to small business success. That's Growth Success Radio, growthsuccessradio.com. Welcome to this week's episode of Growth Success Radio. Welcome to Growth Success Radio. This is a live video podcast we do every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern. This week we have Aaron Janx with us. He is a virtual sales trainer. This show is co-sponsored by Scott Gombar Digital Marketing and by Traeger Insurance Group. This week my co-host Eugene, he is not available. He's in a wedding today or going to a wedding. I don't know. It's like he's in a wedding all the time lately. I don't know what's going on with him.
That's good.
So I will not be able to give you an insurance update because I really know nothing about insurance other than it's a bill every month. But as far as myself, got it. I will be watching because I'm doing a few things right now. That's what Zeph said. So Zeph, I know Zeph personally, and we've done a couple of shows together. So if she jumped on, it would be natural, but she's not able to. So that's cool. She's going to be watching. So for digital updates, there are tons of digital updates. Google just released a new update to their algorithm, a somewhat minor, depending on your view of it. It's not a huge update, and hopefully nobody's impacted by it. But, watch your rankings and watch your traffic. Make sure you're not being impacted by the latest from Google. We are here live every Friday at 11 a.m. As I mentioned, if you want to watch past episodes, you can go to growthsuccessradio.com. You can also go to iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, YouTube, or growthsuccessradio.com. And they're all available there. And I should also warn you, I'm a little under the weather, so I might be coughing up a lung at some point during this conversation.
All right, man.
So Aaron, tell us about yourself.
Basically, I'm a sales mentor for coaches around the world, primarily coaches and consultants. Anybody like that, I teach them how to sell online.
Online, okay. And how's that working out for you?
It's working out really good. It started about a little over a year ago when I started my podcast.
I saw that.
Coaches started to reach out to me saying, hey, we see you're a sales guy, It was very slow at the beginning. Do you think that you could help me with client acquisition? Because that's my background. And I said, sure, but not for free. And so I got on with them. And next thing you know, I got the Six-Figure Coaches Club. And we rock and roll in there and get people making a lot of money pretty quick. I mean, $10,000, $15,000 in just a couple of weeks using no money on ads and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I visited your website. And I do see you do podcasts, which of course interests me. So it's interesting, and I listened to a few of them, and it sounds like some of the podcasts are also some of them are your clients as well.
Well,
or potential clients maybe.
Well, kind of yes and no, because I've changed the theme of the podcast 2 or 3 times when I started the podcast. Okay. I didn't really know where I fit in the podcast world because I was doing a podcast because everybody's doing a podcast.
Right.
And I changed it to, I basically bring people on and do live sales training with them. And it doesn't really matter what kind, as long as it's something that you need to talk to somebody, then I teach them. So I go on there and I bring on whoever it is and do live sales training with them. Some of the people have turned into mentees of mine because I'm not a coach really. I'm a mentor. I mentor these people because I just tell them what to do and they do it. Coaches coach stuff out of people. I just tell people what to do.
So you're like a drill sergeant.
I'm like a drill sergeant.
You're in the right place. You're in North Carolina, not too far. Are you far from Camp Lejeune?
No, I'm not. As a matter of
There
fact,
you go.
my mom's out there. I might go there tomorrow.
Nice.
Not really,
So you're so since we've added you to our show, I've been to your website a few times prepping for the show, and the website has changed a couple times since we first talked. At one point, it did say no BS sales mentor. So I don't know if you want to define that. Keep in mind in iTunes, I'm PG.
Sure. I don't pull any punches. No holds barred. I just tell people what I think they need to hear, and that's not for everybody. That's my style. I want to tell people that up front because, I've had people say I'm too rough, I'm too mean. I've had people say I'm abusive. I've had most people cry. It's just, it is what it is. It's my style. And I need to get that relayed because sooner or later, if you're weak, you're going to crack. But if you want the answers to how to get your stuff sold, I'm the guy. But if you want somebody to give you a massage, well, then you better head on somewhere else.
No punches. I like it. So as I mentioned, I did listen to a few of the podcasts on your website, and you use the term avatar quite a bit. What does that mean?
Avatar is just your ideal client, your ideal customer.
Okay, perfect. That's what I figured, but I wanted the audience to hear that.
It's also a good movie.
Yeah, I didn't want people to confuse it with the movie. That's why I mentioned it. And like you mentioned, you essentially on your podcast, I only listen to the more recent episodes, but you essentially tear down and build up business owners. And I don't think I heard anybody cry, but I think some people came pretty close. And I'm trying to remember who I listened to now. I think one was a personal trainer that you told her to start doing it online.
Yeah, Elisa.
Elisa, yes. And
it did become one of my mentees.
Awesome. And I went to her site after I listened to the podcast, and I see she is doing online training now. So good for her. Right. But tell us what makes you the expert on being able to do that with business owners.
Well, when I was 18 years old, I got started. I basically dropped out of community college and got started doing an errand boy position with a Fortune 500 advertising and marketing company. And I got the opportunity to do a re-sign as an errand boy. I just dropped off invoices, picked up checks, dropped off ad copy, picked up ad copy, stuff like that. And when they let me do the re-sign, I did really well. So they said, what the heck, we'll let this kid go out and see what he can do during the sales cycle. So I did. And I broke all kind of records and became very, very successful in client acquisition and became sales trainer, became regional this, that, and the other, and just kind of worked my way up. And fast forward till now, I have over a decade in that. And I basically take those skills and I've applied them to the coaching consulting industry. And it works. It works really good.
Awesome. So you basically learned yourself, all hands-on,
right?
Self-taught.
Well, I wouldn't say that completely. I'm a third-generation sales trainer.
Oh, okay.
My grandfather basically invented the way that timeshare is sold today across the world. And that was back in the 70s. So I have a lot of, and then my dad, I have a lot of family that is in sales. I'm kind of like a sales outlier. There's a lot of stuff that had nothing to do with me that I've been able to benefit from. So I wouldn't call myself completely self-taught. I had a lot of advantages.
Okay. But so you do have 10 years of experience as well at this point. And so that, obviously you have a lot to share with others. So that's awesome. So tell us what it's like from the mentee viewpoint for being a mentee of Aaron Janx.
Well, you come in, I put you in the Six Figure Coaches Club, it's a mentoring program with a group component where they get Facebook group, they get one-on-ones with me, they get weekly calls. We basically take them through the process of how to prospect, so I call that hunting, how to prospect, how to become sellable. So then when you're prospecting, so people are going to pay attention in the first place. So you get from sellable to prospecting, from prospecting to getting people on strategy calls to closing them on the phone. And then once you've learned prospecting, I teach you harvesting methods where you can get some more automated lead generation going down for you so that you're not always out hunting folks. And that takes a lot of time. So basically it's an 8-week program that I put people through, and they learn hunting and harvesting methods. Because you can't rely all on harvesting, especially at the beginning, or else you starve to death, right? So if you're going to plant a crop and then wait months, you're going to die in between. So we got to go out and hunt.
Now, is this all done on, not the training, but the actual hunting and harvesting? Do you teach them to do this all online, or are they doing it in brick and mortar, walking door to door?
I mean, it could really apply to anything, but I do primarily teach them how to do it online. You could use LinkedIn, you could use Facebook, how to put out content that's going to resonate with people, how to take that to private message without spamming, never spam.
Right.
And from there to booking a strategy session, clarity session, whatever buzzword people want to use, and then learning how to sell without coming across as salesy on one of those calls.
Awesome. We kind of touched on this. So your podcast guests are not usually mentees, but some of them become mentees, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's not really my strategy to make them mentees. They just are willing victims.
Do you know what the conversion rate is from your podcast to mentee? I'm just curious.
No. I mean, the people who I bring on there are just people who've contacted me to be on the program, and I put them on. I mean, really, the podcast is not even that big a part of my marketing strategy. I really have my podcast there as a means for me to be sniffed. So when I usually work by referrals now. So people come to me and they want to sniff me out a little bit, they go to the podcast. So it's there for the sniff test.
Gotcha. You also I heard you, I don't know, maybe a couple times at least, encourage your guests to digitally stalk someone in their space to emulate what they do.
Right.
Can you explain that? Stalking is a dangerous word, so.
Yeah. Well, what you do is you find somebody that is like who you want to be when you grow up. That's how I put it. Who do you want to be when you grow up in your business? Find 5 of those people, and you learn pretty much everything you can about them, how much they charge, where they're at, where they're putting up, what they're putting out on social, what kind of content they're putting out. Is it podcast? Is it website? Is it YouTube? You find out everything you can about them. You follow them on all their feeds. So that's what I mean by stalk them. You basically know everything that's going about. You go back a little bit in their history to find out what they were doing. And then out of the 5, you pick one that you resonate the most with, and that you see the most similarity of who would you like to be in the business model and all that stuff. It's not going to be exact because we're all different. And then you basically model them. You pick out of the 5, you've already researched all of them, and then that one becomes the person or the business that you model, and you learn basically a lot of your branding, a lot of stuff, because a lot of these people have a lot figured out already. They've tested words. They've found out what works, what doesn't work. And so you could take a lot of those things that they've done and the energy they've spent going through testing, and not copy, but to model them and to shorten the curve in your own business.
Right. No need to reinvent the wheel if it's already working somewhere else. Let's see. You also work through a 30-second commercial sales pitch type. I'm a member of BNI, so I'm familiar with the sales pitch. But you work through that with some of the guests on your podcast, and I'm assuming you do this with your mentees as well. What is it you're trying to get the guests to do with their sales pitch?
Well, to be able to say in a sentence or so what you do to somebody in a plain way to where they immediately understand it. A lot of people try to get fancy, cute, sexy, and it doesn't help them. It hurts them. Nobody knows what you're talking about. You say what you do, it's clear. I'm a client acquisition mentor for coaches. It's not sexy, but they get it. oh, you help me get clients. And that's what you have to, in your own business, you keep it simple, because at the beginning, at 90% of all businesses, I'd put 99% of all businesses, you don't own enough mind share to get cute. If you're Apple, you can get cute because people know what Apple's about. If you're McDonald's, they know what McDonald's is about. They dominate a lot of mind share real estate in everybody's brain. But if you're Joe Schmo, or doesn't even matter if you're a 7-figure business. If you're a 7-figure business, even an 8-figure business, you need to be clear and concise about what it is that you do, so that, boom, people know what it is. So that's what I'm trying to accomplish when I go through that with people. So when they're out there prospecting or whatever on their marketing materials, people that they're engaging with can be able to identify very quickly, what in the world they do without any guesswork. People ain't going to think, as we say in Georgia.
So it's interesting that you say that. So what I found is that, especially in what I do, because I'm in digital marketing, so some of it is highly technical, and people, no matter how many times you try to explain it to them, they just don't get it. So it's more like, what can I do for you? That's really what they want to hear. What can I do for you? So you said client acquisition.
Right.
Who doesn't want more clients, right? So you're telling them what you can do for them.
Yeah, lead with your benefit.
Right. Exactly. That's interesting. It makes sense. Who would be a mentor to you, whether they're actually your mentor or not? So who would be somebody you look up to?
Well, I've been, like I was saying, I'm fortunate enough to come from a sales family. So from very, very successful people, by the way, in sales, my grandfather, my dad. So those guys have mentored me my whole life, and I've been lucky that way. But if you want big names out there, I've always looked up to the late Zig Ziglar. I was fortunate enough to be able to meet him and to have lunch with him. But Zig would be somebody. There's guys who come and go in sales, and there's popular sales trainers out right now that people could certainly learn a lot from, like Grant Cardone and folks like that. But that's what comes to mind. I'd say my family, and then secondly would be Zig.
Doesn't get much better than Zig.
No.
Any chance you're writing a book, by the way?
People ask me all the time to write a book on sales, because I do have a unique selling method when it comes to presenting. But no, I'm not writing one right now. It's too technical for me to sit down and do all that. I probably should dictate it and have one of those book in a box people do it.
Yeah, it seems to be the way to go these days, having a book and having a podcast, what you're doing. So no, I don't have a book yet either, but it is somewhere in the works, in the background. So you said you have a unique selling technique. Can you describe it a little bit without giving too much away?
Yeah, I'm pretty transparent with it. It's a 4-step process where you set what I call the framing. You set a frame with somebody, which basically means you take control of the relationship. Because in any selling situation, you're the leader. Because the prospect doesn't know about your product or service. They're in a weaker position. They're there to be educated. That's why they're taking the meeting to begin with, so they can hear more about what you do. So you set the frame by taking control of the relationship, being the leader in the call, and then to do so, you maintain the frame. So you set the frame. Now, once you've established control of the call, by doing some kind of what we call intent statement on the outset of the call, you have control. Then you go from the frame to the pain. You basically ask a lot of questions like a doctor about them and their current situation as it relates to your product or service. You don't start out getting into what you do. As a matter of fact, this is turning sales on its head and getting the prospect to come to you, getting them to sell you on why they would be an ideal client, not you trying to sell them. So you do that by setting the frame, setting the expectations of what's going to happen during this call. You tell them what's going to happen. You get them to agree that, look, I need a yes or no by the end of the call. No's are fine, but I just don't deal with maybes for whatever reason your scarcity is. For me, it's just that I don't like people who do maybes. So I don't need to give you a reason. I don't want to work with people who do maybes because they end up being headaches down the road. That's kind of jerky to some people, but it works for me. So you have to figure out what that is to you, because most people will agree to give you yes or no by the end of the call just because you said it, just because you asked them at the outset. So that eliminates all that maybe crap, following up with people, chasing people. Who wants to live like that? You're also, okay, I'll follow up with you on Monday. It's like you're chasing somebody. When you set the frame in the prospect's mind that you're the prize. To work with you is the prize. So from the frame to the pain, ask them all kinds of questions that unearths the pain they already have. Like for you with digital marketing stuff, you would get in there and so what have you tried for digital marketing? Well, I tried this, but I tried running Google ads. How did it work? Well, it didn't work very good. I tried Facebook ads. Did you get confused with that? Yeah. And then I tried somebody else and it didn't work. Tell me about that. Get them to, you just keep asking questions without seeming like an interrogation. You can make a little comment here and there. So we're there in a state. People who watch Tony Robbins, they hear that a lot. State, when you get into an emotional state of pain. Because human beings, and you can fact check me on this, will do more to avoid pain than they will get pleasure. So during the pain process, you are getting the goal of that is to get them in a pain state to where now you've been talking about all the stuff they've been doing wrong by them saying it, not you, not putting words in their mouth, but by asking good questions as it relates to what you do. They're going to be feeling that pain. They're going to be thinking of all the money they've spent, all the time they've wasted, all the money they're not going to make, or how they're going to go out of business. And so at which point, once you can sense that you've gotten to a thoroughly depressed, basically, where they're looking for a gun or a rope or something to end it all, you're gonna say, well, do you have any questions for me? You've never even told them about your product or service. Yeah, don't you have a program or something you can help me with? Or see how they're coming to you now. So from the pain to the brain. So we're going to go frame, pain, now to the brain. Because people are sold on emotion, but they buy on logic. And a lot of people have experienced this when you go to a car dealership or something and you sit in the car and you love the car, you smell the leather and the payments. You could actually technically get the loan, but the payments would really stress your life out, not to mention the insurance. So you don't buy the car even though you'd love to have a car. Well, you were sold on emotion, but you didn't buy on logic. Pretty much everybody's been through that. So in order to have a higher conversion rate, you have to get them sold on emotion and on logic, and not just one or the other. Some people just emphasize one. If you just emphasize emotion, you're going to get a lot of people who do chargebacks. You're going to get a lot of people who do, bad reviews. But if you get them to tie down on logic too, you get a lot more people. So when you go from the pain, you're going to go to the brain, to where you're going to present your solution to them in a logical, clear, and concise way. And that's a very short process. And basically you end that, and then, you ask again, do you have any thoughts, questions, comments, concerns? Well, no, you didn't tell them the price. And they ask you, well, how much is it? Right? Well, how much do you think it is? Yeah, that's a good follow-up question. In order for you to determine how much value you've built up in that person's mind. That's a test for you. If they say less than what you charge, you've been screwing up. You're not presenting enough value to somebody. And if they say more, they're going to be pleasantly surprised when you say your real price, and you know that you've done a good job of building value in their mind. So then you tell them the price, and then you get paid on the phone. Because if they don't pay right then, 9 times out of 10, they ain't never going to pay. They're going to go off, talk themselves out of it. Husband's going to talk about it. Kid's going to break their leg, whatever. So from the frame, that's called winning the game. So, and a recap is from the set the frame to the pain to the brain to win the game, which is getting paid on the phone.
Nice. That was awesome. Awesome little presentation there. I like how you broke it down into the 4 sections, and
it rhymes.
It's exactly, it rhymes, so it's easy to remember. One last question. Actually, it's not the last question, but it's the last formal interview question. Ultimately, why did you choose to become a sales mentor?
It kind of chose me. I'm good at it. So it came after me. Like I said, coaches came to me. And I realized that the marketplace, especially coaches, consultants, they may be great at what they do. They're great digital marketer, they're a great health coach, whatever, but they just don't know how to sell. They're really struggling.
I find that a lot of businesses that owners don't know how to sell, and even sometimes myself, I get a little, the objections get to be a little too much sometimes. So you're right. Most business owners know what they do for their business. They may not know how to sell, and you have to know how to sell.
You have to know how to sell, because if you don't have sales, you ain't in business.
Right.
You got a hobby.
I have a friend who created a sort of social media platform, did all the coding himself, all the design himself, and it's a great platform. And he told me recently within the last 6 months, he had to add sales and HR to his resume because he has to do all of that too. So,
if he had more sales, he'd be able to hire people to do that.
True. So we have a little rapid fire round, 4 quick questions, not really related to what you do or somewhat related. So just off the top of your head, quick answers. First question is, recommend a good book to improve sales for someone who's not good at sales.
So it's not technically a sales book, but it's by Aaron Janx. It's called Pitch Anything. He talks about framing. So if there's any skill that you want to acquire that makes you good at selling, it's framing. And that entire book goes through the neuroeconomics of framing and why it works with your brain. I mean, it's like a science, why framing works with people. And he talks about it, and he didn't invent it, certainly, because I've been doing it way before the book came out, but he certainly did popularize the term framing. So go check out Aaron Janx's book. It's called Pitch Anything, and it basically deals on pitching, but the framing in it would explain everything that you need to know about framing.
Awesome. Owner or employee, and why?
Why? What do you mean owner, employee? Why would I be an owner?
Would you prefer to be an owner or an employee, and then tell us why?
Well, I mean, obviously an owner. I've been an employee, and it sucks, and I hate people telling me what to do, and I don't tolerate that. So even when I was an employee, they never treated me like one because they knew I would leave. And I would rather leave and be making a lot of money than to stay and have somebody telling me what to do.
I think that's why a lot of business owners go into business, because they don't want someone else to tell them what to do or how to do it.
Stubborn.
What's your biggest passion outside of business?
Music.
Music.
I'm a guitar player and, stuff like that. So, yeah.
Okay. Any particular kind of music or?
Man, I like all kind of music, like you'd be hard to pick a music kind that I didn't like. I mean, I love Bob Dylan. I love Jay-Z. I mean, it goes all over the place.
That's quite the stretch.
Yeah.
All right. And the best business advice you've ever received?
Well, the best business advice that I've ever received would be from Zig, that you can get everything in life you want if you just help enough other people get what they want.
Yep. Very familiar with that one. Awesome. Aaron, how can people get a hold of you if they want to talk to you some more?
Well, they can go to my Facebook group, which is a fairly new group, and we're already at about 4,000 people on Facebook. It's called Straight Up Entrepreneurs. And you go on there, and I give it to you straight up, as you could already tell, minus all the fluff, because 9 out of 10 businesses go out of business first 5 years. And out of those that make it, 9 out of 10 of those dudes go out of business. So we don't have time to mess around. Let's skip all the niceties and all the you're great and you can do it if you believe in yourself and all that. That's for somebody else. You want the real, the raw, the right, the radical, come on into Straight Up Entrepreneurs. That's where I hang out. If you go to my website, aaronjanx.com, you're going to be forwarded to the group anyway. So do that. If you want to book a time to talk with me, go to aaronjanx.com/application, and you can apply to get a strategy session with me. You might not get it, though, because I'm very choosy. So, but it's a try.
Awesome. Any parting thoughts for everybody, Aaron?
Learn how to sell. Get real about it. Understand that if you're an entrepreneur of any sorts, you have also enrolled in being a salesperson. You are a salesperson first and foremost, because businesses are built on sales. Mm-hmm. So you better take it serious. If you don't want to learn from somebody like me, that's fine. Go get books. listen to audio programs, but get serious about selling. Learn the psychology of selling. Learn about framing. Learn about, you answering objections. Learn about closing, so that you can do something with your business.
Awesome. Get real. He said, get real, everybody. So get real.
Yeah.
All right, Aaron, thanks for coming on today. We'll have this uploaded to iTunes hopefully later today.
Cool.
If not, then definitely tomorrow, iTunes, YouTube, Google, everywhere else, and I'll send you the link.
Boom.
All right, thanks for coming on. And everybody, it's Aaron Janx. It's AARONJANX.com. So make sure you go check that out. And next week's guest, we'll be talking some more business next week. So make sure you tune in Friday at 11 a.m. on Hausa. I don't know how they're pronouncing it or how the kids are pronouncing it these days. But we'll be back live next Friday at 11 a.m. Until then, thank you, Aaron.
You're welcome.